Hey everyone, this is Julia with episode number 62 of the Mixology Talk podcast. The hospitality business can change you, in some ways forever. And today we're going to talk a little bit about some of the signs that you might have been in the hospitality business too long. If you're in the business, I think this episode's going to sound very familiar. And if you're not, well, it might explain some of those weird things that brother-in-law does. That brother-in-law, the bartender, that is. Let's get into it.
So there's a couple signs that you've just been in a business for a very long time, and they're kind of telltale, and once you're in a business for a while, you're like, oh yeah, I know that. I do the same exact thing. So we're going to cover a couple of my favorite topics here and just have a little bit of fun with this, and hopefully all the bartenders in the room could definitely relate to this. And for all the people that are enthusiasts, some really good insight into this weird world of bartending that we live in.
And if you are a bartender and your spouse is always saying, why are you doing that? This might be a good episode to send over.
Yeah. So the very first one that I'm going to just kind of own, and I know I'm extremely guilty of this, is that I own an awkward amount of wine keys.
This is so true. I could not. Our silverware drawer must be 50% wine keys.
Yeah, no, I have probably about 15 different wine keys, and it's just one of those things that you put one down, you pick one up throughout the shift, and sometimes you just come home with extras, and sometimes you come home with none. So it's like this ebb and flow of community wine keys sometimes that happens.
Speaking of community possessions, I would say that you are also oddly possessive of pens.
I don't even know how many pens I have. I think I came across one the other day that was from like my first job ever.
We still find them, yeah. But it's not just the number of pens, it's the possessiveness.
Yeah, no.
If I try to take a pen from Chris's desk, it's like I might get snapped at.
Well, and it makes sense if you look about, if you think about what happens during a shift, those things, pens are like currency.
It always seems like the pen, when you're a guest at a restaurant, the pen never works when you try to write the tip.
Right.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah, no, and so I can't even tell you how many pens I have at home just from collecting them over the years. And I've tried to kind of do a purge. I'll bring in like literally 50 pens at once to work and just kind of distribute it throughout the restaurant.
Yeah, you were like the pen philanthropist. Chris would go to the dollar store and buy just a dozen of these $1 10 packs.
Yeah.
And just like sprinkle them throughout the restaurant.
Yeah, just like making it rain pens throughout the restaurant. Throughout the restaurants. But
it's a good way to make friends.
Yeah, it is. And I mean, it's one of those things just like the wine keys that, people start taking them and then you pick some up and then all of a sudden you're either down or up. 100 pens or something like that.
The one thing I will say about pens, though, is finding a wine key in the laundry, not a big deal. Worst case scenario, it's a little bit rusty. Finding a pen in the laundry is really unfortunate. And if anybody has any ideas for how to prevent this from happening in the future, go ahead and email me. Let me know.
Not so much of a concern anymore, but I remember, there was quite a few pens that we dug out of the laundry.
I don't think we had any massive explosions, which I'm definitely grateful for. But there's always pens in pockets, just always.
Yeah, so I'd love to hear how many pens you guys have at home or wine keys, because
if you know.
Yeah, I know. Honestly, I can't even count how many pens I have. It's in the hundreds, easily, within the hundreds.
No, I would say with wine keys, I would include bottle openers in this one.
Yeah, no, definitely bottle openers.
I know some bartenders are more monogamous with their bottle openers. I know there's some folks who have like the one bottle opener they've had since they were 7, and they just stick with that. But you were a little bit more.
I got around with my wine keys.
You got around.
I liked all sorts of wine keys. Let's just say
I'm
that.
not sure how I feel about this conversation.
This is getting awkward really quick.
So tell me about that awkward moment in the grocery store last week.
Oh man. So working in restaurants and bars, you just get in the habit of doing certain things just automatically. They're just kind of ingrained into you, right?
Things that are completely inexplicable and really awkward to the innocent bystander who's never worked in a restaurant.
Right. So, for example, one of the things you do in a restaurant when you go around a blind corner is you say corner, right?
I guess that makes sense.
And then also when you're going behind somebody, you say behind. So you can imagine how this, now that I frame this up this way.
There are lots of blind corners in the grocery store.
And you often walk behind people.
That little old lady was so confused.
Right. Or, actually, one of the things that you do is, or one of the things that I've done over the years is I use a lot of nonverbal communication. So this actually happened when we were on vacation last. where when you walk behind somebody, you just put your hand behind on their back as a nonverbal way of saying, I'm behind you. It doesn't interrupt guest service. And, the server or the bartender knows that you're behind them, so not to step backwards.
You wouldn't do that to a guest. You would only do that to a coworker.
Only to a coworker, because that's kind of that secret physical language, nonverbal.
Did you do that to some innocent stranger?
When we were on vacation, yeah. And she looked at me and I was like, oh my God, I'm so sorry.
I'm so sorry.
And I didn't speak the language, so there was this like weird interaction.
Oh man, I'm glad I missed that.
And she kind of started to smile at me and I was like, I need to go.
Moving on.
I was very flattered, but it was very awkward.
I think she was too. Another thing that I definitely noticed, and I noticed this very early on, everybody probably who listens to this podcast knows this by now, Chris was the first person I ever dated who worked in the hospitality industry. So I learned all this stuff from him. So if he's wrong, then I guess I'm wrong too. But the first thing I noticed was on our first date, he over-tipped. And I thought to myself, well, you're spending more money than you need to. That's weird. But it quickly became obvious that this is very, very normal.
Yeah, it is absolutely commonplace in our industry. I mean, we make all of our money off tips, right? So when we go out to eat, we also do the same thing. We realize that this person's livelihood is pinned to how gracious you are as a customer.
And I think there's also, I mean, especially now that I know the industry better, there's a certain degree of just knowing how hard of a job it is.
Yeah.
I think that if you don't know anything about the industry, you're like, oh, you're a waiter, that's easy. And you don't really respect how much work goes into it and frankly how much crap that waiters put up with.
Waiters and bartenders and everybody in the restaurant business.
So
absolutely.
I think that's the perspective I have now is I'm going out to a nice meal. It's been great. If somebody does a good job, then I don't know. I appreciate that and I want them to know it.
Yeah. And, it can vary on where you go. But yeah, tipping is always a good thing, especially since we make our money that way. And this has been kind of a part. Before I was a bartender, I was a craps dealer in Vegas, and you tip everybody. I mean, the guy that opens the door for you, the valet guy, you tip everyone. Yeah,
it turns out I'm a horrible person because I did not know that we just never tipped all those other people that, the person who carries your luggage onto the shuttle bus, the housekeeper at the hotel,
room service, right? Absolutely.
I never even thought of it. It was just not something that I thought of. And now, of course, I know, and now I know to keep cash on me, of course.
Yeah.
But until then, it's just not something that I would think about.
Yeah. And speaking of cash, that's another telltale sign that you've worked in the business a while.
Either that or that you like late night entertainment and singles.
But if you're in a restaurant business, you most likely always have cash on you.
Sometimes in really awkward amounts, like dangerous amounts.
Yeah, kind of. This really happened to me when I just worked a lot of doubles, or if I was going through the holiday season, you just don't have time to go to the bank. So there was times where we would
be standing at the ATM and Chris would be mashing in wads of cash and it would have to be a cycle because I remember there was always some that the ATM couldn't read, and so it would be like a 3 or 4 attempt transaction. I mean, we're talking hundreds of bills,
right?
Not hundreds of dollars, hundreds of bills, because it would be a week's wages.
Yeah.
It's a lot of money, which I think, in my personal opinion, is kind of risky, especially if you work in a big city and you're getting off work late at night. It's definitely something that can be a little bit dangerous, but on the other hand, I get it. You're exhausted, and
the last thing you want to do is go to the bank. I remember going up a couple of years ago. I worked right next door to a bank, and I would go in there with literally bricks of cash. Most of them were ones, of course, but it was
Why were they ones, Chris?
Well, I had to make some money, but it was very awkward when I would go in there, big thing of
ones.
And
they got to know you there, didn't they?
Yeah. And the first time it happened, I kind of got a couple of looks. It was like, no, I'm a bartender. Calm down.
I swear, I'm a bartender.
Yeah. I would be the ugliest stripper ever. Come on. So another couple of really great things about our job, and some things that I've noticed over the years, is that you kind of own the city that you live in during the day, right? A lot of the people that go to the bars, they have a 9-to-5 job. Us, on the other hand, we work odd hours. A lot of the work that we do is at night. So we have a chance to really own our city during the day.
Yeah, if you live in San Francisco, you may have heard of it. Well, you've definitely heard of a park called Dolores Park. and it has a reputation for being kind of the place where all of everybody else, the non 9-to-5ers, go during the day. And we like to joke that that's where the bartenders are. It's a beautiful, it's almost always sunny there, it seems. It's a beautiful park to be in, and it's filled with folks enjoying a good time at 3 o'clock on a Tuesday.
Yeah, and if you're not doing that now, you definitely should be, because we have a very difficult job. We work counter to a lot of our friends and family. So getting a chance, to really explore the city and know the really cool places to go and hang out, you should absolutely be taking advantage of that, since you're working all these, difficult hours.
Well, and I think there's also a benefit to being able to do your grocery shopping at 11 o'clock on a Monday.
That's one of my favorites.
And, not dealing with the crowds. If there's any benefit, take it, because you guys deserve it.
Absolutely.
Now, this one is my personal favorite. It's definitely something that Chris still does every single time we go out to eat. And this is something I've learned. So we walk into a restaurant and we get shown to a table. And the first thing that I do is find the nearest service station. The next thing I do is take the seat that is not looking at the service station.
Why is that?
It's because I know Chris is going to spend the entire meal watching how they run the restaurant. And if I'm sitting in the seat that's got the best view, then he's just going to be spending the whole time craning his neck.
Yeah, and it's not like a criticizing thing, like a judgment.
No,
it's
not
more
at all.
along the lines of, oh, that's really interesting. I never thought about that before. That's really cool. Or, oh, I wish I could help out. It's this weird kind of like,
it's true.
You're almost involved in the experience on both ends, as both a waiter or, as a service member and somebody that's participating at the table. It's this weird thing. It's kind of hard to turn off.
Occupational hazard. Yeah,
it
definitely.
Really is. Especially if there's a bar. Oh my God, if there's a bar.
Oh yeah, I say service station, but that's a good point. If there's a bar, that's the first priority. Make sure Chris is facing the bar. If there's not a bar, then face the service station.
And it's just, you pick things up. That's part of your entertainment, is watching that kind of dance is what I call it.
And reading the back bar. Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. No, like, oh man, I've never had that mezcal before. I've never seen that. I got to look at that. I got to ask him about that. Whatever it is, or a really cool gin I've never seen.
Someday I might even have a conversation with Chris over dinner. It might be nice.
Yeah, no, one of those days. Yeah, it's going to be great.
No, it's not that bad. And like Chris said, it's not criticizing. It's just, I think when you're in the industry, you know what to look out for. You know what processes are happening in the background. And I think it's just interesting to see how other restaurants and bars operate.
Yeah. Now, this is kind of the last thing, and this is definitely on the bar side of things, is when you go into a restaurant or a bar and you take a look at the menu, oftentimes it's almost undecipherable as a customer. But
that's for sure.
As a bartender, you can kind of pick out a couple ingredients and have a pretty good understanding of what that cocktail is going to taste like.
Yeah, there's like a secret language almost.
Right. So, just by a couple ingredients, you're going to know if it's going to be sweet, it's going to be more balanced, if it's going to be kind of on the sour side, and
it's going to be neon blue.
What the profile is going to be. Is it going to be spicy? Is it going to be spiced? All these things you can kind of pick out just from the drink menu, and you can kind of figure out who that menu was designed for.
Is this kind of like when you go to In-N-Out and the secret menu, you can order, animal style and all that
totally.
Stuff? Is there like a secret implied menu at basically every bar?
No, I don't. I think that it depends on the bar, but there could definitely be an element of that for sure. Well, the story about the secret handshake in San Francisco, the Fernet, for a long time.
Oh, yeah. Not anymore.
Not anymore. Everybody drinks Fernet now. But, and I'm sure you've heard us talk about this before, but, when I started, Fernet was kind of the secret handshake of like, hey, I'm in the industry as well.
Yeah.
And it just kind of rolls out the red carpet when you...
It doesn't bode well for your date. What do you mean? We went to we were in Lake Tahoe and we went to a bar and Chris ordered a Fernet and the bartender did a double take and immediately knew that Chris was in the industry, then took one look at me and proceeded to make me about 7 versions of his favorite espresso martini.
Right.
Which for some reason I don't remember the last 2 or 3 of them.
Yeah. Honestly, it was kind of
they were
pretty
great.
Early in our relationship.
The first couple were greet. I don't remember the rest.
Yeah, it's right when we first started dating and drinks just started showing up. We were at a table. I went to the bar. I ordered a Fernet and ginger, maybe, or
whatever I ordered. I don't remember.
And there was this nod of recognition. He actually asked me where I worked, so we started having this conversation. I sat back down. We were having, just talking and stuff. And literally drinks just started appearing like, oh, I've been working on this cocktail. What do you think? And all this thing. And just because there was that secret acknowledgement that happens.
And for some reason, Chris decided that I would be the one to finish all of them.
Oh, yeah. I wouldn't drink that. Are you kidding me? No, I'm kidding. They were really good cocktails.
They were really good. Even with both of us, I think 7 was too much.
Yeah, it was a lot.
It was a lot. But no, it just goes to show, I think, that across the board in this industry, there's a common experience. And if you speak the language, if you strangely touch some stranger on their lower back, if you over tip everywhere you go, it's all because of the experience that you've gone through.
Right. And it's a little bit of this kind of camaraderie, like, hey, we've kind of been through similar experiences, kind of been through the fire together.
Yeah, that's for sure.
So it's like this acknowledgement of, like, you take care of me, I'm going to take care of you. It's kind of like this extended family. So.
Definitely. So I'm sure that we have missed some good ones. I'm sure everybody out there listening has some awkward moments of their own where they realized that they were being perhaps a little bit too bartendery in public. Definitely let us know. I would love to hear your stories. Head on over to mixologytalk.com/62 and let us know in the comments, because I'm sure that we're not the only awkward ones.
We may be. I don't know.
I'm holding out a slim hope here.
All right, everybody. That does it for this one.
See you in a couple weeks.
All right. Cheers.
Cheers. Never miss an episode by subscribing in iTunes or YouTube. And as always, check out the show notes by clicking on the right.